Homestead Apprentice. Where exactly did the idea for this come from?
So the idea actually came from Evan from Radio Made Easy. He's here quite a bit. We do a lot of business together, and I have a 5,000 square foot building kit sitting out here to add on to the 10,000 foot building. And he said, "When are we putting that up?" And I said, "Well, it's 85,000 in concrete. I can do a lot of other stuff with 85 grand right now." And he said, "We should get some apprentices to come out and put that up." I'm like, "That sounds cool. You put that together, and I'll be there." And that kind of transitioned into our friend Bob Lester, always business minded. And he's like, "I see a TV show out of this." I'm like, "Perfect. You guys put that together and I will show up, but you got to do the footwork." So they really are kind of the driving power behind that. He's talking to sponsors and major companies about that. Evan is kind of running social media. Austin is producing, who's here now, Austin Davis in the comments there. He's one of my video guys and cuts all of my short form content. So there's a team of guys behind there, putting that together and driving that. And we're going to do that. We're going to run the gauntlet, which is the selection, which will happen right after Self-Reliance Festival, May 5th and 6th, I believe.
So the 5th and 6th of April?
The 5th and 6th of May.
May, okay. All right. Exactly how's this going to work? Like what is the plan for the program?
Well, we're going to bring them out. We're going to bring out a lot of people, 50 guys, and then we're going to run a gauntlet, which will basically be a selection. And that's why when I sat down with Joel Salatin, I wanted to know how he selected his interns and kind of how they did that and what problems he saw and what the solutions were and the best way to do that. So that's really when I got to interview Salatin, I wanted to talk about things that nobody else had on video with him. And that's kind of the direction we went. So we're going to pull 50 dudes out, and we're going to kind of just run a selection and see whose skills are what. And more importantly, who can team build and work with a team and motivate. And, just like in the military, you take the young dude and you put a couple people under him and all of a sudden a leader steps up. So that's kind of what we're looking for. And we're going to whittle that down to 2 12-man teams. And we're going to run 2 12-man teams head to head. So it'll be a little bit of Donald Trump's The Apprentice. You're fired. And then it'll be experts in the field. We're going to put them through a lot of different classes: medical class, chainsaw class, tourniquet class, fighting pistol, attack response. We have a lot of higher end people in their industries that are like, we know how to run a saw, but we've got dudes that really run saws full time. So we're going to make sure they get the best training. And then we're going to, just kind of go from there. We're going to do some sawmilling. They're going to come onto the property and rough camp the first night, and then start building structures. And then once the structure's built, how are we going to do water catchment for the structure? What is the solar going to look like? And we have companies involved for all of that.
Okay. That's really cool. So when you start out with this gaggle that you're going to drill down to end up with 24, those 24 are, and you're kind of 2 teams headed up against each other. Is this going to be like an ongoing elimination, or are those teams, as long as they stick with what they're doing, and like they're for the duration?
We're going to keep them from the duration. Of course, we're going to, critique and have the mentoring, and I'm sure that some will be eliminated along the way.
Yeah, maybe self-elimination.
I suspect more self-elimination.
Yeah.
I hate to get rid of a guy who will stick through it all the way,
Yeah. Yeah, because that's one of the things I never liked about those shows, especially like the weight loss and the fitness ones and all. It's like the whole point is to see what you can do with people rather than just – it's not trying out for a high school football varsity team where you just cut people. I like cutting the initial herd down because you kind of have to. You can only have so many people doing this.
We're also pre-qualifying employees, right? We're pre-qualifying people for the communities, because it's not just here. If a guy's like, "Man, I really like this, but I definitely don't want to go to Camden, Tennessee." Well, you've got Nicole on the hauler is always looking for the right person. You've got Bob's guys over in Ohio always looking for the right people. You've got Evan, who's always looking for somebody out of North Carolina. So all of those people will be here, including Nicole, on site for this. So they will get, and we've got, I believe we have Stony Ridge Farmer is locked in and coming in. And so that's North Carolina also. We're just looking for the right person to match. We always get people that are like, "Man, I love your videos. I want to come work for you." And I spend more time making videos trying to tell you don't want to work for me than to convince you to come, because it's not just what it looks like on that video. You see that 15 minutes of super cool, this worked, but you don't always see the 16 hours of it not working, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a lot of not working when you're building shit and when you're building businesses both. Um, so is this going to have like some challenges then? Like that you're like,
Yes,
obviously you're going to have like, it's all like, build a shelter or whatever, but are you going to have some things that are more like head to head? Like, can
absolutely.
you do it or who can get it done better or first?
Yes, absolutely. There is. Yes. It's I keep saying, like, I keep talking about it as though it's like buds, and it's not it's not going to be that. We definitely don't want to scare anybody off. And there's no limitation through strength or knowledge. We really want a vast, variety of people to come in, and you never know who that guy is going to be. And I compare that to, the military training stuff. The it's never the football quarterback who passes buds. It's never the peak triathlete guy that makes it. It's always the most unexpected person, and it's more mental than it is physical.
I think there's definitely a lot of it. It would be mental, especially the way you're starting out with your rough camping and then you're building a structure and all. And you may not have to cut that many people to get down to your final teams because people do tend to self select their way out of things pretty quick.
Yeah,
Um,
you never know, man. We get guys that show up here and they say everything to get the job, and then they do nothing to keep the job. And a lot of guys, like, we've had show up, we'll have guys come in that are really, really good, and they're running from something, right? They've freshly broken up from a relationship, come out here, and as soon as they start calling home, and once she starts missing him, he kind of like bails and takes off.
yeah.
You just never know, man. People are weird. You can't ever really read them.
Yeah. So how long do you picture this process going? Like, is this going to be like 6 weeks, 12 weeks, two
So
months?
it was 6 weeks. I think it's down to 3 weeks. The final is going to be 3 weeks. So
Okay.
the selection is on site for 3 days, but it's really 2 days. That gives them some time to get in and some time to get out afterwards without having to, okay, you're out, hit the street.
Yeah.
And then I think I think we have settled on 3 weeks is the final. And then this is the first time we're doing this. We want to take the winner and put them onto a piece of property that we're developing, and then run this again and use everybody for the second time to develop that new property.
Gotcha. Gotcha. I think 3 weeks probably makes a lot of sense too, because if somebody has a job or something, it's hard to get away for that length of time and go back and still have a job. Um,
Yes.
so yeah, if you do like 3 months or so, you're not NBC or CBS or whatever, which means it'll be better, but it also means you can't throw these people like 100 grand a piece to be on the show and then they're good for a year or whatever. So I think that's
Well, I
probably
know
a good decision.
I know Joel gets hundreds of people putting in applications when he opens up. And then they kind of go through and they have a number system, and nobody communicates with each other. So those
Hmm.
guys that get a number one, they basically get put in the pool, and then everybody kind of reviews them, and they bring them out for, I think it's I think he said 3 days. And he's like, that's when the selection is. And then we whittle it down to how many people we're actually going to pull. And I think they whittle it down to 12 interns that actually stay there 6 months. And a lot of those interns become full-time employees,
Yeah.
and they start businesses within that group.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so I don't think it's just going to be throw people out and see what they can do. You're probably going to have, like you said, pros involved, people training them. What kind of training do you're going to be doing for these folks?
So training wise, we're gonna start. Obviously, we're cutting down trees and stuff, so that's chainsaw. There'll be some chainsaw training, a good solid day, hands on, using the equipment. Here's the chaps. This is what happens when they get hit. We already ran a chainsaw workshop here. That's kind of a pre test and to actually run this. We already have the people in place. We know what that looks like. We're doing medical training, which is tourniquet application and specific wounds that you would receive while running a chainsaw. That's a separate supplement. Fighting pistol, that's a 2-day class. For how to use and actually run that gun, and that's gun fighting, not gun shooting. That's through TAC Response. They run a class. We've seen that class hundreds of times. My wife and all of my kids have been. I think half the guys on this live feed right here have been through those courses. So it just stuff like that. We're gonna get in. We're gonna cut some trees down. We're gonna take some of that wood, turn it into actually dimensional lumber. We're going to do some fencing and show what the fencing looks like. We're going to plant some trees. We're going to build a structure, solar application of solar and solar installation, water harvesting, all of that. We're going to run all of that. Install mini splits. What kind of system does it take so that we can physically see this? They will see this happen.
And Evan's saying 0 to hero radio operator too.
Yep, running that too. Yep, they're gonna know communications, what they can do, what they can't do, what the limitations of that are. All the sponsors that are involved, we will have their aspect in there.
Try not to